Whether in a small town like McAllen on the Rio Grande, or in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, it is business. Big business.
Welcome to the Girl Get Visible podcast. This show talks about traffic, marketing, and business. This is for the retailers, the coaches, the course creators, and service providers who want to build a legacy, build authority, and build a brand that people admire. The visible girls who are not afraid to get out of the sea of sameness and to find her tribe. Business owners ready to go from consumers to creators and build an online presence where your tribe can find you. We talk about topics like SEO, content marketing, and business systems, but that's only because our visible girls are ready to do business like a business. Stop hiding in the crowd and get visible.
Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible.
Hey guys, welcome to the Girl Get Visible podcast. I'm going to hit share now. Give me 1 second. I was trying to do it all during the intro. That didn't work out for me. So we are here, as many of you guys know, we are here for episode 100. Woo! I don't have confetti or balloons, but y'all know it's a party, right? Episode 100 of the podcast. And today we are flipping the script a little bit. And I have brought on one of my good friends, Kishshana Palmer, who is amazing. You guys are going to meet her, hear all about her and things like that. And she is going to host and interview me. So a little bit about Kishshana. Kishshana is her business is KishshanaCo.com. So KishshanaandCo.com. And she is a leadership coach and trainer, consultant. She does some amazing things working with different corporations and helping their leaders to grow. Y'all know I need this, right? Helping your leaders to grow. She does Strength Finders training for teams, does a bunch of amazing stuff. We've worked together, so I know her site and her content really, really well. But most importantly, I love Kishshana's personality, which you guys will see in a moment. Why? And the fact that she knows how to get deep into the minds of leaders and to help them to grow. Now, this won't be the growth episode, but it will be the get deep episode because I have given her the carte blanche to go ask me whatever she'd like, whatever you guys want to know. We collected a couple of questions prior to the episode. So if you submitted, your question's most likely going to get asked, right? And if not, I'll still email you and let you know whatever the answer is. But we are going to go deep. We are going to make sure that you know everything about Girl Get Visible, me, episode 100, life, business, everything's on the table today. I am excited to have you guys here and excited to have Kishshana come and take over for me for the episode 100 of the Girl Get Visible episode. So Kishshana, jump on in.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, my friends. Oh my gosh, Akilah, this is such an exciting time for you. Like, it is legit a whole feat to get to 100 episodes because statistically, y'all, and for those of y'all who do not know me, you will know me by the end. I love a good statistic. Most folks, it's like overwhelming, like more than 60% do not get past 6 episodes of their podcast. Akilah, now that means there's a whole lot of folk who wake up early in the morning and decide that today is going to be the day that somebody hears their opinion and somebody has said to them, you know what you should do? Start a podcast. I would like to invite y'all tonight, okay? Because most of y'all are not going to make it past episode 6, but not today because, Akilah, we are celebrating 100 times to be able to share your knowledge, your expertise, your Rolodex. Like, that is a thing. Okay, like first of all, this is the most free 99-ist genius you ever going to get as it relates to growth and SEO and marketing and life. And so lean in. So I'm here to get all in your business, to ask even more questions, particularly because not only are you my friend, but I have been your client. You have pulled all of the edges, and my edges are hanging on to make sure that I get visible in the work that I do. There's no such thing as being the best kept secret. Y'all, that is actually not a badge of honor. I would like us to put it away. We do not want to be the best kept secret. Hello? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, Akilah, I'm curious, before we jump into the questions that we have from guests, you and I have been talking, and one of the things that we have in common is that we are early to the party. We are the kind of party starters that get there when the caterers are still putting out the sternos. So we get to trends before they're trending. We start things when they're like super hard because we're like, this is what I see in the market. So when you first started your podcast, why did you decide, let me get on and start talking to folks about getting visible?
So, and it's funny because we did talk about this. So I started years ago. If y'all go back in the thing, you'll see years. I did the pod fade. I almost did not make it past episode 6. Right? But I kept coming back and I kept like getting back into it, going back to, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to do this again.
Yeah.
And it all started because of Pat Flynn. And I know that's probably like the most cliche answer, but I promise you it worked. One day I was looking for passive income. I found Pat Flynn, and this is back when he had like, he was good, but he wasn't what he is now, right? So he was still kind of newish or whatever. But I started listening. I started listening to him and John Lee Dumas and a bunch of guys who like old school guys. But I will say a bunch of guys, right? So let's start there.
Let's be clear.
And there weren't many voices like mine. There weren't many voices for women. There just weren't a lot of other voices, right? And while their voices were dope, I knew that I knew people. I knew that I was exposed, like, or could expose other people to it. Mm-hmm. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to try this thing. I'm going to do this thing. And I'm a little bit techie. You guys know that, right? So I'm like, I'm going to take my little tech skills. I always did. I'm going to take my little tech skills and I'm going to, put together podcasts. I'm going to get some equipment, figure out, the whole editing thing, the whole how to get it done thing. And I'm going to share what I have to the world. And more importantly, like you said, the Rolodex. I want to share my people with the world because I'm like, we're not going to get on the guys' podcast. Right?
Listen, and no hate to them, but they were not interested in really having a conversation with us. They really wanted to talk to their own friends, and evidently their own friends, just like when we were growing up in school, we're having a Sadie Hawkins dance, Akilah, all over again with the boys on one side and us on the other. Okay.
Exactly. And when you say your own friends, that was the thing that really stuck out to me. I wanted to bring my own friends. I also saw that the way I saw, like I found, like I said, I found Pat Flynn first. Everyone else I found as a result of listening to them on his show or listening to them on the next person's show. Right. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's how the network is working. Right? I got some people, I got some friends. I need to make friends. Let me go. And like I said, get out here and start this show and, bring all the people in.
I love it. I love it. And so when I feel like in podcasting, because listen, y'all, I'm only in season 2. And I just want to say, Akilah, for the record, that when I took a hiatus in June of last year, I thought it was going to be for a mere 2 weeks. I was getting ready to do a conference. I thought I needed a bit of a break. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It's going to I basically am relaunching almost a year later because that is how time happens, right? So when you think about any endeavor, and when you talk about this in terms of thinking about marketing, thinking about SEO, you're always talking about that one C word, y'all. It's not currency, although this is currency. Consistency. So how did you get consistent? Like, how did you figure out how to just like stay in it, even as you were finding your way before there were all the software companies and the automation tools and the gurus talking about how to do this and I can help you do that? How did you stay consistent?
So I'm going to be honest. It's a struggle. It's still a struggle. Mm-hmm. It was definitely a struggle. I am definitely a put one foot in front of the other and no pieces, no content left behind. Those are my kind of 2 guiding principles. And so, like I said, if you go back into the episodes and what took us so long even to get to 100 is that I had some times, like I had some, I'm going to not do the episode this week that turned into this year. Right. Exactly right. So I had some little fades. And so what kept me going, one, I always kept the podcast up. Like I very rarely delete content. So I always, if nothing else, paid that bill for the podcast to stay alive.
Yes.
And then I would see the numbers. Like I'm not even producing anything, but people are still listening. And that for me was serious motivation. When I would meet people, and even now today, I meet people and they're like, I listen to every episode of your show. And I'm like, really? Whoa, let me go make some more for you. So, those are the things that motivate me to kind of keep going. in terms of being consistent with it, we're like really this year getting more and more consistent. And I have to shout out Monique, who's one of my assistants, who's the one who works on the podcast the most. And so she makes sure the episodes get out there. That is a huge help. Even if you've got one person helping you do some of the work, I think that's one of the really, really big things. Just constantly having ideas, batching.
Yeah.
You know, if I got an idea, I'm going to just start recording. No matter what. Sometimes
that's the secret, because I don't do that. I write it down and then it sits in my podcast ideas. And I'm like, when am I going to get time? Is it trash day? Because the lawn people come on Tuesday and I got to record. I just get in the way. So what you're saying is when the mood, like when the idea hits you, head to the booth, you know, head to the closet, head to the mic, and start recording.
I'm going to tell you, even head to rev.com if you have to. I've got some episodes. I had some episodes in the car, and I don't do it all the time, but if it's between you having nothing and you having something that like, and I literally be like, I'm in the car right now. So you tell people, so it doesn't sound completely janky, but you know, sometimes you have those interjecting episodes because when the mood hits you, the topic hits you, that could be some of your best stuff. Right. So for you not to record it and to wait, and then knowing again with the inconsistency and having so much on your plate that you're going to lose it, I'd rather just do something, have it done out there, and just, you know, send it off and let it get on the show, as opposed to having nothing at all. So that was another thing that really helped me with consistency, was giving myself a little bit of grace of what I planned and how I planned it and when I recorded and stuff like that.
I love that. I love that. So that grace part is really really important. Because one of the things that I know a lot of folks struggle with, whether you have a 9 to 5 and a 5 to 9, whether you're trying to make the transition, is how do we communicate our expertise? And how do we do that while we're still like learning and growing, right? Like that's the thing that I feel like is always the struggle. That's where the analysis paralysis comes in. At least it does for me. So what it sounds like you're saying is like, you got to just let that go, because what you need is you need reps. You need to do it again and do it again and do it again. And eventually, no matter whether you're in the car, the drive-through, your office, Starbucks, a proper studio, wherever you are, you'll be able to deliver. I love that. So listen, I could ask more questions, but I want to see what some of the folks ask. Oh, so they want to get in your business. Okay. So we're going to switch gears for a second. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey as what I call multi-hyphenate and also a straddler. And so you had a storied career as a project management, a PMP. You've been a scrum master. You have jumped into the shark infested waters of tech and come out smiling. I remember I used to read posts about you, and you'd be jetting from this place to this place. And people think that business travel, the way we do it, is glamorous. I want y'all to know it is not glamorous. It is hella stressful. Okay, let's talk about that. But what we would see is people would see you, you know, on the result end. And so did folks take your business seriously? Hold on, let me, this dog.
See, we always do the pets and families.
Welcome to the pets and families. My dog really should have her own podcast, because if I have the soothing sounds of my dog, people probably would love it. But so my question is, like, when you think about the being in the kind of career you were in tech, and then deciding that you were going to start a business or two that had to do with tech and that were tech specific and then tech adjacent, all leading back to those roads, how were you able to decide what your first strikeout was going to be? Like, how were you going to step out that first time before you decided to leave your corporate job?
So I started, it's a good question. I started I think I started slowly. So let me start with, I was one of those people who loved my job. Right? I was one of those people, and I always have, like, I mean, I've always been like freelancing when I was doing web design right out of college, and then, you know, going into online boutique stores. So I've always done like something, right? Blogging, something. I'm just not one of those people who can sit down and do.
Right.
My hobby is this. This is my hobby. Right? So, and I was one of those people, like at one point, I remember like thinking I never wanted to quit my job. I had a really good career, and was going up the ladder, the whole good things, got all the certifications, like you mentioned, led teams, worked for amazing companies, amazing bosses. So I wasn't one of those, I hate my job or I don't make enough, and no shade to those people. I just wasn't one of them, right? Just wasn't my story. And so it was really the fact that I really liked what I was doing there. And I was learning so much I started out in healthcare IT and working for some major hospital networks in New York. And I saw how to market them and how they were using tech and all the things, right? And I knew that small businesses and entrepreneurs and people that I knew, again, more people like us, right? I knew that we could use those exact same things and those exact same strategies. That's actually how I fell in love with SEO, because I was like, okay, wait, they don't prioritize ads. It's not about how much money you spend. It's really about how much knowledge you drop. And I could drop knowledge, right? So I'm like, let me help other people do the same things and stuff like that. So really, as I was learning there, I was seeing how much it could help us in other places. And so I started cultivating that, trying it on my own sites, doing it myself and, making sure it works first, right? Yeah. And then I started helping other people. And then people would ask me, like, even when I had online boutique stores, while I was talking more about online retail and marketing and stuff, people would always be like, well, how do you get traffic? And I'm like, well, SEO. Well, you guys show us that too. And at first I was like,
oh. What? I need more. You're like, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, not really. And so it just kind of evolved. And it wasn't until I had my son, and I had my son kind of later in life, as people say. I have a 7-year-old, for those who don't know already. I have a 7-year-old. Right? And so when I had him, then I was like, well, I'm going to have a job, a very demanding job, because like you said, I was traveling. Funny enough, I was traveling for work. I was traveling for my business and traveling like for personal and sorority, because I'm in a sorority too. So literally, like I remember one time I literally landed from India. I was in India, spent 2 weeks in India, landed in JFK, came home, hopped in my car and drove to Philly for the weekend for another event, and then came back and had some things to do for my business like that Monday. So my poor family, they were just here. Right?
You were like, hello, hi.
Right. As I'm waving by and stuff. But as I had him and I had the business and the job and everything was just kind of growing. Yeah. It came to fruition that I really needed to commit to something. And make something else my hobby, right? Which I don't know if I really did that, but we'll talk about that soon.
Talk about that, right? You're like,
right? I don't know if I really made something else my hobby. I feel like I just did another business, but that's okay. But yeah, it really came like I needed to settle with something, and I went with what I wanted to grow, because with my business, I can grow based on everything that I know, and the possibilities are infinite. Like while I loved my job was just, this is what you do. You're the manager of this department. These other departments run their things and stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of, you can't do everything you want to, even if you have a lot of bright ideas, right? And so I wanted to go where I could do anything based on my bright ideas. And the only way to do that is to do your own thing, right? Your own thing. So that's really what pushed me to the transition, because like I loved my career, and I'm glad I did love my career, because it enabled me to grow in things that now I can use in my business. And like that, all those certifications, I scrum my own software company now. So
that's amazing. Because some people leave their corporate role and they're like, a lot of us, you're angry, you're exhausted, you're resentful. You had to like find a way or make one to get your professional development, or you had to shoehorn it in at night. So did you really learn it? Did you really get to do that stretch project that got you where you needed to go? And so when we make this break and do our own thing full time, it feels like you should get this release or relief, but folks are often surprised that actually no, because a lot of the skills that you were using in your job full time were really survival-based skills for a particular thing, as opposed to growth-based skills that you need when you are building a business. So let me ask a question. Somebody asked me, how'd you break it to your husband that you said, hello, I will not be returning?
Well, the panini made it easy. So we'll start there. We're both home. He's also in IT, and we were both home. So that A made it super easy. And at one point, my son was home too. He's now the only one that actually leaves the house. We stay home. I mean, we leave to take him, but we then come back home.
Yeah.
But so that was one. So the one, we were already here, and then luckily, I work for a very global big company, and they were making some location transitions, and so it was a good time. That it was like really a good time to say, okay, I'm gonna like not go there where they want me to. Instead, I'm gonna stay here. Right?
Mhm.
And I've had my business for years, so he knows that I can run the business. He knows that the business is profitable. Like he knows that the business is really good and sustainable. And I'm gonna tell you, like throughout this whole transition, he's been amazing. Because even when I'm in doubt, he's like, yeah, and he's very laid back. For those who know my husband,
Yeah, that's what I love about him. He's like, you got this.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, it'll work.
Don't you
And
worry
I'm like,
about that.
I'm freaking out, and he's like, yeah,
He's
it's
like,
cool.
no, it's gonna be cool. And you're
Yeah.
like, why are you so calm?
Yes.
Tell
So
me
I think being home, the transitions that were already happening, and just sliding it in with everything else, like ride the wave, helped me to ride the wave on.
So what do you love most now that you have transitioned? And what are you like, I know I have to do it, but this is not on my list of things that I really enjoy.
I do love daytime naps.
Don't tease me with a daytime nap.
I'm sorry.
My clients always want to talk to me in the daytime. I'm like, does no one leave voice notes?
Because especially since I still have to wake up early in the morning. So people, especially if you've got kids and you're like, I'm gonna leave my job and I'm gonna be able to relax. Nah, I'm still up every morning at 7 a.m. because I gotta get him up and ready and to school. His school's like 20 minutes away. He goes to a school, not a private school, but not local. So I gotta get up. So so that's one thing. I do come home, I do some work, do things in the morning, and then I take a nap. That's one of my favorite things. The things I had to really adjust to that I really wasn't, like I said, wasn't prepared. I will say one thing. So super transparent on the financial tip, especially if, like me, you've got a good job and you've been running a good business, you essentially had 2 salaries.
Right. Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that, right? If you're not someone who's just like starting out or, and not really used to it, I had 2 salaries for a good long time, right? And now I have 1. So that cut down a few things that I prepared for it, but I was not prepared the way I should have been for it. So I'm preparing now.
You kind of know, and intellectually, and then the emotional and the intellectual and the reality catch up.
Yeah. So that was because at first I was like taking myself out to lunch a couple of days and going to do this, and A, I was not getting enough work done, and B, we didn't have the fancy restaurant money.
Right. You were like, hello, the fancy restaurant money has gone away. So can you
and since I rode the wave, I couldn't come back with a complaint. Like,
right.
So
that was a hard transition to me. I mean, first of all, I don't think I really made the transition. I just want you to know I'm still like this. And so I had to talk to myself. The other day I heard myself saying to the queenager, that's my kiddo. And she, I have a high schooler. Okay. So when she was your son's age, let me tell you, life was good. The girl could eat SpaghettiOs, Chef Boyardee, a home cooked meal with equal zest. Okay. Like this was whatever mommy prepared. She was happy to be alive. Now, this young person of mine has discerning taste. Can we get a crab boil today? Mom, should I make reservations for small batch so we can go out and have a nice date? You don't have any money. So
she's asking you out on a date.
And she doesn't want to take her little side. She's like, she don't let her hear me say, y'all, I done called it a little job again. This is the biggest bone of contention, Akilah, right now in my house, that I have called her job a little job, and I have called her money her little money.
That's a good fight to have, though.
I don't want to say for the record, but when I first started my business, my mama called my business my little business, and I literally lost my job. I have multiple degrees and certifications. Okay, call my business little like it's pocket money. So it's so funny that I remember that I had to say to her the other day, like, listen, I saw you waste 2 things of food that grandma made this week. And you wasted takeout. Stop messing with my money. And I heard myself and I said, we have slipped into a different fiscal climate in this household because I am not playing when it comes to these everyday luxuries and necessities. So you're right. You have to. It took me so long to make that transition, though.
No, it's okay. But you make the adjustment. It's so true. Like, and this is the conversations no one wants to have. Everybody's like, I make six, blah, blah, blah. You still got bills.
And I cried when I paid my taxes. Okay. I cried. I cried real tears, y'all. Did you not cry the first time? I was like, and now you want me to pay them quarterly? Don't the taxes come out my paycheck when I pay myself plus extra? I mean, listen, cry. You hear me? And so people think like, oh, you know, you run your own business, you're doing all these things. You actually have to operate on so many different cylinders. And if you do not have even a medium degree of self-discipline, or not even self-discipline per se, but self-regulation, okay, and awareness, like you've got to be able to say, self, if you don't cut this nest, what you need me to do? Right? You have to have those conversations. And if you don't know how to do that because you're used to working in an environment that's dictated by deadlines and other people's things, etc., it's a really hard transition to be able to make.
Absolutely.
So, you mentioned, I saw you slide it in there, but we're going to slide back, that you're supposed to pick up a new hobby that might be a new business. What is this?
So, well, you know, and I think most of y'all know, but whoever doesn't know, I started a whole other software company.
Please help my friend. Hello, everyone. Please help my friend.
So,
that was me.
Like I said,
leaning into the mic. Please help my friend.
I always go with the whole, you know, I got this whole tech thing, right? I got this whole tech background, and I actually started it during the panini did a lot of things to people, and including me, right? I cannot say I'm safe, Mark safe from the panini, right? But in 2020, I was thinking of what to do, what next. I was still kind of thinking about what I was going to do with this whole transition thing and the office thing. And it wasn't like I started it because of that, but I started because I wanted to, and I could, right? And then doing that made me realize that I really needed to do something about this other thing, the job, right? So I decided to start a whole company, a whole nother company, and build a software platform, which I'm excited about, and it's exciting. I think it's going pretty well. You know, it's still alive and kicking, which is good. And so that was the new hobby.
And what is the business do? Like, what? So you know, the SaaS companies to me always felt like the veil that you had. You know, like when you ride and people get to ride in first class. Sometimes that's me. And if you're up back there in comfort. Because I don't go to Maine anymore, y'all. I'm so sorry. But in comfort, you're looking at the mesh curtain and you're going like, what they doing up there? And so that's how SaaS companies feel to me. I kind of see and I sort of know, but I don't quite know. And I'm not quite in the in club. So what exactly does your company do?
Okay, so SaaS, for those who don't know, software as a service. I realize I need to break it down more, right? Because I actually think this is a whole nother side. I think in the next couple of years, we are all going to have or need a SaaS or partner with a SaaS. Like that's the wave that's happening now, the wave of the future. So software as a service, meaning that it's something that people pay a subscription a fee to. So like you get access to it every month or every year. So like StreamYard that we're on right now, or your Zoom or your Netflix, all of those are considered SaaS companies. And so my SaaS company is of course related to SEO. It helps people to help write their content better. And it's called SEO Assist. It actually just went through a whole name change, a whole other story, right? It's called SEO Assist. And the idea was, I know there are tools out there that help people find keywords, tools out there that do the analytics and analysis and stuff. I use them all the time, but there are no tools that actually help you do the work. So I wanted to build something that was going to help people do the work. And one of the biggest pieces of work is to write something, right? So help you get the ideas from in here and put them on the screen so they can get onto your site. Because that was one of the biggest problems a lot of my members and my clients and stuff, they're like, I get this whole beautiful plan and they're like, I don't have time to create the content, or I don't know what to write. And so I said, let me not call names. But I'm like, let me create a tool that's going to help you do that. And
Right.
then I piled some more things on, which is a little bit of my backpedaling a little bit last year. Is I added on a podcast directory to help people get backlinks. I added in metrics tracking to help people track their metrics. And so I added a couple of things. I'm not adding in, I'm growing the things we have, not adding in new features this year. That is my goal for 6 months of this year. Let me not lie to y'all. All right.
Another problem is going to emerge that somebody has, and you're like, nah, it's like 100 people have talked to me about this. Okay, let me go ahead and
yeah. I would say, let me not lie to y'all, right? But that's what a SaaS is. And so now, and I'll tell you, because I've worked in IT and I've done software implementations and managed full service teams and stuff, people told me years ago, you should do a SaaS. You should do a SaaS. And I was very resistant.
What do you think you were so resistant? Like, what was like really the thing that was holding you from making a different decision?
Because I knew what support was like. That's what I did. Like, that's what I did in my life, right? I've managed a lot of different IT teams, but one of them was a web app development team. One of them was a service desk and help desk teams, right? The database teams. And so, and I worked in healthcare IT. That's kind of where I got my start in IT, which is, I'm going to tell y'all, is rough because hospitals are 24/7. So I've been on the 3 a.m. calls because something is down. Right? And so, now I go to start my own thing. I'm like, I don't want to be, what if it goes down? What if all the users need access to something? What if? Like, it's a lot to manage. But on the flip side, I also, since I have a membership, I also know what it's like to still work with people all the time and manage what if they need something, what if this happens? And I was like, after a while, I was like, you know what? It's not that much different. It's just, I'm doing it software. And so that was it. That's how we got here.
Smart. So smart. So what do you think is like your wildest dream right now for your company, for this company? Because I know you have more than one business.
So I got dreams.
Listen, that's why I asked the question. I had to ask you, what is the dream?
So my biggest dream right now with this with both the companies, but my biggest dream with the software company is I want to grow it to a multi-million-dollar company. Yeah. And B, I want it to get brought by somebody, right? I really wanted to get brought by SEMrush because I think it would be dope for them to add this. But anybody, I'm not going to be super picky, especially if the price is right. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're not SEMrush.
Right? You're like, no,
they don't recognize my genius.
They don't know my gifts and my talents.
Exactly. So I really want to grow it to the point where it's scalable and sellable.
Okay.
And then I actually have another software idea. So
you just wait. You're like, I'm just trying to get this one done so I can move to the next thing I have on my mind.
Exactly. And as I'm entering into the SaaS world and hanging out with the SaaS folks, that's what they do. Like, so many folks are like, I had this company, and then I sold like 3 or 4 companies, and then I got this company, and I want to be folks.
You want to be folks? Listen, why don't we need to be folks? We need more folks being folks.
Absolutely.
That's the truth and the bottom line. We need more folks being folks. So I'm here for all of that. That is so exciting. Okay, so we had one of your listeners ask, what is the worst piece of advice that you have received? Tell us everything.
Okay, so I saw this question come in. Oh, you know what it was? I tried to like, what is the worst thing that I don't? And so let me start with, I don't take everybody's advice.
Hello?
I use a lot of discernment.
Hello?
I know when people are telling me
discernment. Okay.
And you know what? So I'm gonna can I like go off track with this one?
Of course, I got you.
So one of the things I realized with entrepreneurs is that we get a lot of advice, and then we take that advice and we take it as if it's gold,
as gospel. Right? Ooh.
And we don't use our own discernment from our own expertise that we already know. So you guys know I've worked in corporate for a lot of years. I led a lot of teams. Even if I wasn't always running the company, I know how companies run. So if somebody tells me something that just seems out of whack, just because you got the knowledge from a 9-to-5 doesn't mean you didn't get the knowledge. Yeah. Right? Like, just because you studied it in college doesn't mean you don't know it. Right? You didn't study it. So I'm always kind of hesitant when I see people, the gurus, talking and telling people stuff, and people are like, well, so and so said, and I'm like, well, Does that make sense? Like, would you do that at your job?
Right.
And people are like, no.
No, then why
Why
would you do that here?
You're
like,
so
the math is not mathing, friends.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with a lot of advice I just don't take because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the worst advice that I've seen, and I tried a little bit and then I backpedaled off of that, was to go live every day for 30 days or 60
oh my
days,
gosh,
whatever the clip people tell people to do. And it never made sense to me, but I did when I first started Girl Get Visible's Facebook page. Y'all can go back and see the beginning. I did the 30 days, right? And I had an audience. Let me say that. I did the 30 days because I was bringing over an audience. What I don't get is how people expect people to do 30 days with no audience and think magically on day 5, 10, 20 that people are going to just start multiplying and listening. Absolutely. Right? If you start your 30 days with 5 people and that's all you're doing, you're probably going to end your 30 days with 5 people. I'm just gonna say that. And I never understood that. Like, to me, that's like the worst, dumbest. Like, you got to do more than just go live for 30 days. Right? You just got to do something
so much more
to do more. Like, maybe back in the day that worked when, people used to share lives. Remember, everybody used to share each other's lives and stuff.
Oh, I love that. I used to enjoy this so much. And people were like supportive and they were like, oh, this live is so great. And tomorrow's live now and I'm jumping on with me. I don't feel like we get that much now. No,
those days are so gone. So when people are like I said, share, just go live for 30 days, I cringe. I just cringe. That has to be probably the worst thing I've seen people talk about.
And it's so crazy because it also goes against, like, how do you have, like, just your human nature? Like, how do you have time to do other things is my question. So one of the challenges that I think every business owner faces particularly when you're trying to grow, because growing and scaling are not the same, friends. Hello. Just like activities are not outcomes, is you've got to make some early on decisions about where you're going to put your chess pieces down. And then you've got to be able to understand, like, mapping the board so that you know what moves to make. And you've always talked about that, using that analogy, that having really good SEO is the board itself, right? So it gets the right people to want to come to actually move the pieces. And that was a really, really hard lesson for me because I built this massive list. It was like 9,000 people, did all these webinars from different software companies who gave me their folks and the registrants, whatever. But they weren't necessarily my people. Oh, they were enamored with me for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, etc. But were they really looking for the information, the teachings, the classes, the courses? Were they trying to buy from me? Or they just like the fact that I'm cute? Like, what was it that they really were there for? And so I didn't want to do the work that you suggested, which is the work you don't see, which is not glamorous, which is steady, which is time bound if you put your clock to it, y'all. But over time starts to build on each other. So now when you do a Google search and you just type in the first 5 letters of my name, Google is like, hello, are you looking for Kishshana? And I still have to do a better job, right, of leading people not just to me, but to the expertise, to my company, to stuff I'm doing. And that was, to your point around bad advice, what was missing. People wanted you to then pay to learn that part. That sort of feels like the emperor wears no clothes. Like, so once, and I saw you being very vocal about that. So once you started talking about, like, I'm gonna need y'all to use common sense when we're doing things, how do you think that was received by your peers online?
I think it's still received differently. People still, I want to be the head of the SEO revolution, and not the SEO revolution. And I think that's one of the things. People still think SEO and think, oh, it's super technical, or it's this thing I have to do. But I want to be part of the growing your online presence and getting your expertise out there revolution. I don't have a cute name for it, which is probably my problem. I don't have a cute name for it. But I think that when I have those conversations, people are like, but this is quick. People are like, they can see this, right? And I think that's like how I said in the beginning, what kept me with the podcast and coming back to it and doing it over and over and over again was when somebody would say, I listened to every episode, or, people, like, especially when Clubhouse first started, when I would go into rooms and people were like, oh my God, I listened to your show. And I was like, oh my God, really? Right? Because I never saw them. And that's the thing, like, some of the things that you're doing to build are not glamorous.
Yeah.
And they're not, they don't feel great. Like, not that they feel bad, but like, if you go viral, you feel great. If a whole bunch of people watch your TikTok videos or your reels or something like that, that feels super. So many people on your live, that feels super to people, right? When you put out a podcast episode, you get some numbers, but that's all you get. You don't see the people. It's not like, the crowds, the screaming fans. And I'll make the music analogy, right?
Yes.
When someone back in the day when you had CDs, right? When someone put a CD in stores, they didn't always see every person who brought that CD. Right, even if they knew the CD was selling. But when they go to a concert and get on stage, they hear the screaming fans, they see the screaming fans. It's a different type of energy, and I get it, right? But at the same time, the concert is one-time thing.
That's right.
And every day you got to keep getting up and showing up and getting on stage. If you get sick and have to cancel, you don't get paid.
That's right.
Whereas that album that sits in the store, you don't have to be there for it to sell. It's going to continue to sell and sell and sell and continue to make waves. Other people are going to listen to it. They're going to recommend it to their friends, all these things. And all this stuff is kind of under the surface. And so I think it's always been a struggle for me. And like I said, still people look at me like, this content thing, right? I'm supposed to make stuff and throw it out into, throw it out in the land and people are going to pick it up. So I think that still is still very foreign to people, that you create these solid pieces of content that people can pick up because they're looking for it. If I go back when we had the music stores, if I go into the music store, even now, if I go into Spotify, I'm looking for a song. I'm looking for something to listen to. As opposed when I come on Facebook, I'm not looking for that.
No.
I'm not looking for new music on Facebook, right? But yet that's where people spend their time, giving me their new music on Facebook instead of making sure that it's in Spotify, right?
Smart.
So that's, like I said, I still think I have the struggle, but I'm trying to be the queen.
No, that's a really good analogy, though.
Right?
And it's funny because I always feel so resistant to write these like long soliloquies, and I write. So every now and again, like I'll drop something on Facebook on my personal page, but I never actually treated my personal Facebook page as a business page, which evidently I should have said something about my business. And people were like, "What business are you in? You never talk about business." I'm like, "It's my personal page." And so, having that balance is something you need. But now I have to be like, if you like this thing I just said in this little 10-second video, click this link that goes to the blog post, that goes to the YouTube video, where things have other things. Like, you have to be able to get folks. Basically, you're like herding cats, right? You've got to be able to get folks from place to place in a way that they don't feel put upon, but it feels like it was their idea. Like, oh, yeah, I totally was looking for that thing. And then I realized 2 hours later that I was looking for this thing. Like, you have to,
like, I need this.
Right? They go from like, sounds interesting to, did you not order that? And so that I think is really, really important. So what do you think is going to be the one thing you're going to do this year for yourself that's going to bring you joy? Not business related, not being a mom and a wife, not being the good sorority girl, none of those things. Just for you.
Ooh, that's really a hard one. We already talked about my lack of hobbies. Right? I do. And I also say it's hard too, coming out of the panini. I am very risk when it comes to, I'll do a lot of things, but me coming out the house, my folks are still laughing at me because coming out the house is not something I'm really trying to do. And I'll also say, funny how you talked about traveling earlier. I'm very afraid to fly. So I was afraid to fly before this. I'm definitely like, and I got to go to Chicago in a month. I'm praying. Pray for me, y'all.
Yeah, pray for her, y'all.
But yeah, so the thing I want to do, I'm gonna say I just want to get back out the house.
That's a good goal.
Maybe a spa day, which I know sounds little, but I want to get back out the house.
No, but for you, it's gonna be a big step.
Yeah, so maybe that. I'm trying to think. I'd love a vacation, but I just can't guarantee I'm getting on these planes. Like, I'm the type of person who will literally, and when I'm really afraid, I'm one of the people who will turn around. Like people are like, you spent all this money. I don't care. Right?
I'm still going home. I don't care.
So yeah, I'm the type of person who might buy a ticket and get to the airport and call my sister. That's where I got to go in a month. Call my sister like, Dren, I didn't make it. Right? So
because you're like, I'm just shook right now. Like I just cannot. Like
I went back home.
It took me.
Yeah,
okay.
people think if you just start it sometimes, especially with things like that. I'm like, I'll turn back around. I will turn back around, y'all. So I think for me, the biggest thing for this year is getting back out the house. I'd love a vacation. We might get a beach house down by the shore or something.
Oh yeah, that's a good place to
start. I'd love something like that, but we'll see because I might turn back around.
Listen, but until then, y'all, Akilah will be taking over the world. She will be plotting her next 100 episodes
from this office.
Right here. Okay. She will be dropping knowledge on her blog, by the way. Okay. If it's not on this podcast, and doing all the things to take over the world, because world domination, I feel like, will be your next hobby. Like that's my thoughts, because you just do amazing things in the world. So listen, I could not be happier that we got to celebrate 100 episodes, growth, marketing, SEO, making sure that everybody who listens to you understands how critical it is, whether you're building something for your play money or you're not playing about your money, that you are doing the things that get you visible. And this is just such an important conversation and an important tool that you have made available to us. So I'm just cheering you on. I'm saying thank you. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear who guest number 101 is, because they're not going to be as cool as me, but they're going to be amazing and drop so much knowledge and information as you continue to grow the podcast. So I'm super excited that we are on this journey together, and I got to be a small part of it.
Yes, I'm bringing you and everyone else I know along for the journey. And I want to thank you so much for coming to interview me. Some tough questions.
Oh my gosh. How dare me ask you how you're going to take a break?
The fact that that's the toughest question means I probably need to go work on that.
We need to have a session.
We need a whole nother session. And also we need to have you on the show. And I already told everybody, I didn't even talk to you about it, but you're coming on the show just so you know.
Thank you. Here we are. I'm back for all of the things, friends.
Yes.
If you want to see what's here under the cystic acne of my business.
Yes, so we can tap into your knowledge, which is so dope. But again, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys who are here live and see the numbers going. I saw a couple of comments.
Yes, I did too.
Thank you for those who submitted some questions. Those are, definitely always helpful. I want to help you guys, right? So if you do have even more questions, drop them in the comments. I'll be in there talking and yapping it up. Definitely, if you have not checked out the actual podcast, go over. We're everywhere. Everywhere, right? So Apple, Stitcher, Google, all the places. Of course, you can go to girlgetvisible.com/podcast and listen to all 100 episodes. Lots of me, lots of guests, lots of goodness. And we will be back next week with episode 101. All right. Thanks, guys.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Kishshana.
It is business. Big business.
Thanks for listening to the Girl Get Visible podcast. I hope you've learned a lot about how to get your brand out of sea of sameness and start to get visible. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you've learned from this episode of the Girl Get Visible podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.
Visible.